Native speakers are not using different English. They are using the same words you already know, but they connect them, shorten them, and sometimes make them almost disappear. That is why you can understand English when you read it, but lose the meaning when someone speaks quickly. The problem is not always your vocabulary. Your ear was trained for slow textbook English, not natural conversation. This audiobook will train you to hear connected words, reduced sounds, and the hidden patterns of fast English. Listen carefully, repeat the examples, and stay until the final chapter, because each chapter will make real English sound clearer. The words were never truly missing. Your ear simply had not learned how to catch them. Let us begin training the English ear. Chapter 1. Why native English sounds completely different. The first mistake many English learners make is believing that spoken English should sound exactly like written English. You see a sentence on the page, every word is clear, every letter is visible, and your mind expects the speaker to pronounce each word separately. But when a native speaker says the same sentence naturally, the words seem to change shape. Some become shorter, some connect together, and some become so weak that you can barely hear them. This does not mean the speaker is using different vocabulary. It means spoken English follows a different rhythm from written English. Imagine the sentence, "What are you going to do?" When you read it, you may hear every word clearly inside your mind. What are you going to do? But in a real conversation, it may sound closer to, "What are you gonna do?" A learner may hear this and think, "I do not know these words." But the words are familiar, the sound is unfamiliar. This is the first important lesson of this audiobook. Your listening problem is often not a word problem. It is a sound pattern problem. For years, you may have studied English mainly with your eyes. You read vocabulary lists, grammar books, subtitles, and written exercises. Your brain became good at recognizing the visual form of words. You know what going to looks like, but your ear may not immediately recognize gonna. You know what want to means, but when someone says wanna, your brain needs extra time to connect the sound with the meaning. Native speakers do not usually speak word by word. They speak in groups of meaning. These groups are called thought groups or speech chunks. Instead of producing 6 separate words, the speaker sends one connected message. Consider this sentence, "I need to talk to you about something." A careful learner may expect, "I need to talk to you about something." But natural speech may sound more like, "I need to talk to you about something." The words are still there, but they no longer have strong walls between them. English becomes a river, not a row of separate boxes. Your job is not to force native speakers to place those walls back. Your job is to train your ear to recognize the words inside the river. Another reason native English sounds different is that not every word receives equal stress. English has strong words and weak words. The strong words usually carry the main meaning. The weak words connect the message. Listen to this sentence. "I sent the email to your manager this morning." The most important words are usually sent, email, manager, and morning. The smaller words, I, thee, to, your, and this, may be spoken more quickly and softly. A native speaker does not give every word the same energy. The speaker creates rhythm by moving from one strong word to the next. You may hear, "I sent the email to your manager this morning." The strong words act like lights on a road. Even when the smaller words become weak, those lights help you follow the direction of the sentence. This means you should stop trying to hear every sound with equal attention. Instead, begin by catching the strongest words. Suppose someone says something quickly and you hear only meeting, Friday, 10, office. You may not have caught every word, but you already have enough information to understand the likely message. There is a meeting on Friday at 10 in the office. A strong listener does not panic because 2 or 3 small words were unclear. A strong listener uses the words they heard to rebuild the message. This is what native speakers do too. Even native speakers do not consciously analyze every sound. Their brains use context, rhythm, and prediction. If someone says, "Can you pass me the," while sitting at a dinner table, the listener is already predicting words such as salt, water, bread, or plate. The brain does not wait passively. It prepares for the most likely meaning. You must begin training the same skill. When you listen to English, do not ask only, "Which exact word did I miss?" Also ask, "What is the speaker talking about? What words would make sense here? Which strong words did I hear?" This keeps your mind moving forward. Many learners lose an entire sentence because they become trapped by one missing word. The speaker says 10 words. The learner understands the first 3, misses the 4th, and then mentally stops. While the learner is trying to remember the fourth word, the speaker finishes the sentence and begins another one. The real problem was not the missing word. The real problem was stopping. From now on, when you miss a word, stay with the speaker. Do not mentally walk backward. Keep collecting meaning from the words that come next. Very often, the rest of the sentence will explain the part you missed. Let us practice this idea. Imagine you hear, "I was going to call you, but I got caught up at work." Perhaps you do not understand caught up. Do not stop. Listen to at work. Now you know the speaker was probably busy and could not call. You understood the situation even without understanding every expression. Now imagine, she turned the offer down because the salary was too low. Perhaps you missed "turned the offer down," but you clearly hear "salary was too low." From that clue, you can understand that she probably refused the offer. This is intelligent listening. You are using meaning to support sound. Another important difference between written and spoken English is that common words often become very weak. The word to may sound like "tuh." I need to go may sound like "I need to go." The word for may sound like "fur." This is for you may sound like "this is for you." The word and may sound like "n." Bread and butter may sound like "bread and butter." The word of may sound like "of" or sometimes almost disappear. A cup of coffee may sound like "a cup of coffee." These weak forms are not lazy English, they are normal English. Native speakers reduce small words because the listener can predict them. The important information usually lives in the stronger words, so the grammar words become lighter. Think about music. A song does not give every beat the same power. Some beats are strong and others are soft. English speech works in a similar way. The strong beats carry the message, and the weak beats help the sentence flow. If you expect every word to sound strong, natural speech will always feel too fast. But once you begin listening for rhythm, English starts to slow down inside your mind. Let us try a simple listening method. Take the sentence. I want to go to the store. First, identify the strong words. Want, go, and store. Now say only those words. Want, go, store. You can already understand the main meaning. Now place the weak words between them. I want to go to the store. Notice how the sentence moves quickly through the small words and lands on the strong ones. Try another. Could you send me the report by Friday? The strong words are send, report, and Friday. Natural speech may sound like, could you send me the report by Friday? You may not clearly hear every sound in could you, but the sentence remains understandable because the important words are strong. This is how your ear must begin organizing spoken English. Do not hear a long sentence as 10 equally important words. Hear it as 2 or 3 strong meaning points connected by softer sounds. You should also understand that spelling can mislead your ear. English spelling shows the history of a word, but natural pronunciation shows how people actually use it. The word comfortable may look like 4 clear parts, but many speakers say something closer to comfortable. The word different may sound like different. The word probably may sound like probably. If you only know the spelling, the spoken form can feel like a new word. That is why every new vocabulary item should be learned in 2 forms, how it looks and how it sounds naturally. When you learn a word, do not only read it silently, listen to it in a full sentence. Notice which sounds are strong, which become weak, and how it connects with the words around it. The word alone may be easy. The word inside a sentence is the real listening challenge. For example, you may easily recognize the word did, but in the question, what did you say? The phrase did you may sound like did ya. What did you say becomes what did you say? A learner waiting for a perfect did you may miss the question. A trained listener recognizes the whole sound pattern. This is why chunks are so powerful. Do not only learn what did you say. Learn the complete spoken chunk. What did you say? Then listen to how it changes in natural speech. When your brain stores the complete sound, you no longer need to separate every word first. You recognize the expression as one familiar unit. It is the same with, do you want to? Are you going to? Could you help me? What are you doing? I don't know. Let me see. These phrases appear constantly in real conversations. The faster you recognize them as complete sound patterns, the easier natural English becomes. Here is a powerful daily exercise. Choose one short English clip of 10 to 20 seconds. Do not choose a long video. Your goal is not to consume more English. Your goal is to study a small amount deeply. Listen once without subtitles. Ask yourself only one question. What is the general meaning? Listen again and write down the strong words you hear. Then look at the transcript or subtitles. Compare the written sentence with what you actually heard. Notice which words became weak, which sounds connected, and which parts seem to disappear. Listen again while reading. Then close the transcript and listen one final time. The sentence will usually sound clearer, not because the speaker changed, but because your ear now knows what pattern to expect. Finally, repeat the sentence aloud. Do not pronounce every word slowly and separately. Copy the rhythm. Copy the strong and weak sounds. Copy the connections. This is called shadowing. But the purpose is not only to improve speaking. When your mouth learns how natural English is produced, your ear becomes better at recognizing it. You hear more clearly because you understand how the sound was created. Remember this, fast English is usually not fast everywhere. Native speakers often move quickly through predictable words and slow down slightly on important information. Your ear should learn to ride that rhythm. Do not chase every small sound. Wait for the strong words. Use context. Predict the message. Stay with the speaker even when one word disappears. At first, natural English may still sound like one long line. But as you continue training, your brain will begin placing invisible spaces between the sounds. A sentence that once sounded like noise will become a group of familiar chunks. A phrase you once missed completely will begin appearing clearly. And one day, you will realize that native speakers are not speaking more slowly. Your ear is simply working more quickly. That is the first transformation of the English ear. You are no longer waiting for perfect textbook pronunciation. You are beginning to hear English as it is truly spoken. Chapter 2. Stop listening for every word. One of the biggest listening mistakes is trying to catch every single word. Many learners believe that understanding English means hearing each word perfectly, translating it, and placing it inside the sentence. But natural speech moves too quickly for that. While you are trying to understand one small word, the speaker has already said 5 more. Then something frustrating happens. You understand the beginning, miss one sound, and suddenly lose the entire sentence. The missing word was not the real problem. The real problem was that your attention stopped moving forward. Imagine someone says, "I wanted to meet you yesterday, but something came up at work." Perhaps you do not understand the expression "came up." If you freeze there, you may miss "at work" and lose the message. But if you continue listening, the rest of the sentence helps you understand that an unexpected work problem prevented the meeting. You did not need every word. You needed the situation. This is how strong listeners understand fast English. They do not collect every sound perfectly. They collect enough meaning to follow the speaker. Think about how you listen in your first language. You do not examine every word. Sometimes there is noise, someone speaks softly, or part of a sentence is unclear, yet you still understand because your brain uses context. You already have this ability. Now you must build it in English. When someone speaks, listen first for the words carrying the main information. These are usually nouns, main verbs, adjectives, names, numbers, places, and time expressions. Consider this sentence. I'll send you the updated report before the meeting tomorrow morning. You may hear only, "Send updated report, meeting tomorrow morning." That is already enough to understand most of the message. The speaker will send an updated report before tomorrow morning's meeting. Words such as I'll, you, the, and before help form the sentence. But the main message lives inside the stronger words. This does not mean small words are unimportant. It means you should not panic when one of them becomes weak or unclear. Train yourself to ask, "What information did I catch?" Do not immediately ask, "Which word did I miss?" The first question keeps you connected to meaning. The second question often pulls you backward. Suppose you hear, "She's been working there for nearly 7 years. Perhaps "she's been" sounds unclear, but you hear, "working there nearly 7 years." You still understand that a woman has worked in that place for almost 7 years. Now consider, we might have to cancel the trip because of the weather. Perhaps the beginning blends together, but you hear, "cancel the trip, weather." The message is still clear. This is not incomplete listening, it is intelligent listening. Your brain is learning to use the strongest parts of the sentence to rebuild the whole idea. Another important skill is prediction. Good listeners do not wait for every sentence to finish before understanding it. Their brains constantly predict what may come next. If someone says, "I'm feeling tired, so I think I'll go to," your brain may predict bed, sleep, or rest. If someone says, "The traffic was terrible, so I arrived," you may predict late. Prediction makes listening faster because your brain is not starting from zero with every new word. You can train this ability by pausing short English clips before the speaker finishes a sentence. Ask yourself what word or idea would logically come next. Your answer does not need to be exact. the goal is to make your mind active. Listening should not feel like standing under a waterfall and hoping to catch every drop. It should feel like following a road and noticing the important signs. The speaker's topic is one sign, their tone is another. The words you already heard are more signs. The situation, emotion, and likely result also guide you. Imagine someone says, "I studied all night, but when I saw the exam paper, my mind went completely." Even before hearing the last word, you can predict blank. Why? Because the earlier words prepared your brain for that meaning. This is how real listening works. Understanding does not come only from the ears. It comes from the ears, memory, context, and prediction working together. You must also learn to remain calm when a word disappears. Many learners react to one unclear sound as though they have failed. Their mind says, "I missed it. I cannot understand fast English." That emotional reaction makes the next sentence even harder to follow. Instead, tell yourself, "I missed one word, not the entire message." Continue listening. The missing part may become clear from what comes next. Even when it does not, you can often understand enough to remain inside the conversation. Let us practice. Imagine you hear, "Could you put these documents on my desk before lunch?" Perhaps "could you put these" sounds like one fast group, but you clearly hear, "documents, desk, before lunch." What is the likely message? Someone wants the documents placed on a desk before lunchtime. Now listen mentally to this. "I didn't buy the jacket because it was far too expensive." Perhaps you miss "didn't buy," but you hear "jacket, far too expensive." The reason tells you the result. The person probably did not purchase the jacket. This is why context is powerful. A sentence often explains itself. To train this skill, use short audio without subtitles first. Listen once and write down only the words you clearly hear. Do not stop the audio after every second. Let the full sentence reach you. Then ask yourself what the speaker probably meant. After that, check the transcript. You may discover that you heard only half the words but understood almost the entire idea. This teaches your brain an important lesson. Perfect hearing is not required for successful understanding. Next, listen again and notice the words carrying the meaning. Usually, those words receive stronger stress. They sound clearer, longer, or louder than the smaller connecting words. Repeat the sentence while emphasizing those key words. For example, "I need the report by Friday." The important words create the structure of the message. The smaller words move quickly between them. When your ear learns to follow those strong beats, spoken English becomes easier to organize. You should also avoid translating every sentence into your first language. Translation creates another delay. You hear English, convert it into another language, understand it, and then return to English for the next sentence. By that time, the speaker has moved ahead. Instead, connect the English sounds directly with pictures, actions, and meaning. When you hear "she opened the window," imagine the action. Do not first build a translation. When you hear "the train has already left," picture an empty platform and a departing train. Meaning is faster than translation. At first, your mind may still translate automatically. Do not fight it aggressively. Simply practice understanding simple sentences through images and situations. Over time, the direct connection will become stronger. Remember, listening is not a spelling test. You do not need to prove that you heard every small word. You need to stay with the speaker, catch the important information, and understand the direction of the message. From now on, when one word disappears, do not allow your attention to disappear with it. Keep moving. Catch the next strong word. Use the topic. Use the situation. Predict what makes sense. The sentence may not become perfectly clear, but the meaning can still reach you. That is the second transformation of the English ear. You are no longer chasing every word. You are learning to follow the message. Chapter 3. Hear the small words native speakers reduce. Some of the most difficult words to hear in English are not long or advanced words. They are small, common words you already know. Words such as to, for, and of, can, have, you, your, are, and the appear in almost every conversation. When you read them, they look simple. But when native speakers talk naturally, these words often become shorter, softer, and faster. That is why a sentence can contain only familiar vocabulary and still sound confusing. You may read, "I want to talk to you for a minute." Every word is easy, but in natural conversation, it may sound closer to, "I want to talk to you for a minute." The sentence did not lose its meaning. The speaker simply gave more energy to the important words, want, talk, and minute, while the smaller words became weak. This is one of the most important secrets of fast English. Native speakers do not pronounce every word with the same strength. English has a rhythm. Important words usually receive stress, while predictable grammar words are often reduced. When your ear expects every word to sound clear and complete, these reductions feel like missing language. But once your ear learns the common patterns, you begin hearing familiar words inside sounds that once seemed unclear. Let us begin with the word to. When to is stressed or said alone, it may sound clear. Who did you give it to? But inside a normal sentence, it often sounds more like to. I need to leave may sound like I need to leave. I'm going to call her may sound like I'm going to call her. And in very common expressions, going to may become gonna, while want to may become wanna. I'm going to study may sound like I'm gonna study. I want to help may sound like I wanna help. You do not need to force yourself to use every informal reduction when you speak. Your first goal is recognition. You need to understand that when you hear gonna, the speaker is usually saying going to, and when you hear wanna, the speaker is usually saying want to. Now consider the word for. When spoken clearly, it sounds like for, but in normal speech, it often becomes softer, sounding closer to fair. This is for you may sound like this is for you. I've been waiting for an hour may sound like I've been waiting for an hour. If your ear is waiting for a strong perfect for, you may think the word disappeared. It did not disappear. It simply became weak because the speaker assumed the listener could understand it from the sentence. The same thing happens with and in natural conversation and is often reduced to a short N sound. Bread and butter may sound like bread and butter. Come and see may sound like come and see. You and I may sound like you and I. When you first hear this, it may feel as though the speaker skipped a word, but the rhythm and meaning still tell your brain that and belongs there. Now listen to the word of. In expressions such as a cup of coffee, of may become extremely weak. A cup of coffee can sound like a cup of coffee. A lot of people may sound like a lot of people. Kind of difficult may sound like kind of difficult. Again, these are common spoken forms. They are not separate vocabulary words. They are familiar word groups spoken quickly. This is why learning English only through spelling can create a listening gap. Your eyes know the written phrase, but your ears have not yet connected it with the natural sound. Another common reduction happens with you. When you follow certain consonants, the sounds may blend together. Did you often sounds like did ya. What did you say may sound like what did you say? Could you may sound like could ya. Could you help me may sound like could ya help me? Would you may sound like would ya. Would you like some coffee? May sound like would you like some coffee? A learner may hear didja or coulda and search for a new word, but these are not new words. They are connected versions of words you already know. The same pattern can happen with your. What's your name may sound like what's your name? Is this your bag? May sound like is this your bag? The word is still there, but it has become smaller because it is not carrying the main message. Now consider can. When can is positive and unstressed, it often sounds weak. I can do it may sound like I can do it, but can't is usually stronger because it changes the meaning of the sentence. I can't do it. This difference matters. Sometimes learners hear the weak form of can and think the speaker did not say it. Instead of listening only for the vowel, pay attention to the whole sentence and the speaker's stress. If the sentence is, I can meet you tomorrow, the important words may be meet and tomorrow. The word can may be very quick, but the positive meaning remains clear from the complete message. Words such as have, has, and had can also become difficult to hear, especially in perfect tenses. I should have called you may sound like I should have called you. Some speakers reduce it even further, making should have sound close to shoulda. You could have told me may sound like you could have told me, or you could have told me. He must have forgotten may sound like he must have forgotten. These forms are especially confusing because learners sometimes write should have or could have after hearing them. But grammatically, the correct phrases are should have and could have. The pronunciation becomes reduced, but the grammar does not change. The best way to learn weak words is not to memorize a long list of rules. Train them inside complete sentences. Take this sentence. I could have sent it to you. First, say it slowly and clearly. I could have sent it to you. Now notice the important words, could, sent, and you. In natural speech, it may sound closer to, I could have sent it to ya. Listen to the sentence as one message. Do not try to catch 6 perfect separate words. Now try. Do you want to come with us? Natural speech may sound like, do you want to come with us? The first sound may be unclear, but want to come with us gives you enough information to understand the invitation. This is where context becomes powerful. Even when a small word is difficult to hear, the sentence structure helps you predict it. If you hear, "I'm waiting smarbinestabase," your brain knows that for probably belongs in the gap. If you hear, "I need or speak or you," your knowledge of common English patterns helps you restore. "I need to speak to you." Strong listening is not only hearing sounds, it is combining sounds with grammar, context, and familiar expressions. Here is a simple exercise you can use every day. Choose one short sentence from a film, podcast, interview, or learning video. Listen once without reading. Write down what you think you heard. Then look at the transcript and circle the small words you missed. Listen again and notice how those words were reduced. Were they softer, shorter, connected to another word? Did a vowel disappear? Did two words sound like one? Then repeat the complete sentence aloud, copying its rhythm rather than reading every word with equal strength. For example, "I have to finish it before Friday." Do not say, "I have to finish it before Friday." Instead, allow the smaller words to move quickly. "I have to finish it before Friday." The goal is not to develop a fake accent. The goal is to understand the rhythm that created the sound. When your mouth learns the reduction, your ear recognizes it more easily. You should also listen to the same short sentence several times. Repetition is not a sign of weakness. It is how your brain creates a stable connection between written English and spoken English. The first time, you may hear noise. The second time, you may catch the strong words. After reading the transcript, you begin noticing the reduced words. By the final listening, the sentence may suddenly sound obvious. The speaker did not slow down. Your ear learned the pattern. Remember that you do not need to pronounce every reduction exactly like a native speaker. Clear speech is more important than forced speed, but you must become familiar with reductions if you want to understand natural conversations, because real English is filled with weak forms. From now on, when a common word seems to disappear, do not assume that your listening has failed. Ask yourself how that word may have changed. Perhaps to became ta. Perhaps for became fair. Perhaps and became n. Perhaps did you became didya. Perhaps should have became should have. These small changes explain a large part of why native English sounds fast. That is the third transformation of the English ear. You are no longer expecting every word to arrive in its full dictionary form. You are learning to hear the quiet words hiding inside natural speech. Chapter 4. Separate the words native speakers connect. One of the strangest experiences in English listening happens when you hear a long sound, search your vocabulary, and cannot find the word anywhere. You replay the sentence, but it still sounds as though the speaker used a completely unfamiliar expression. Then you read the transcript and discover something surprising. The speaker did not use a difficult word. They used 3 or 4 simple words you already knew. The problem was not vocabulary. The words were connected so closely that your ear could not find the spaces between them. Written English gives you clear boundaries. You can see where one word ends and the next word begins. Spoken English does not show those spaces. The sound continues moving, and your brain must decide how to divide it. Consider this sentence: turn it off. When you read it, you see 3 separate words: turn it off. But in natural speech, it may sound closer to turn it off. The final sound of turn connects directly to it, and the final sound of it connects with off. Instead of hearing 3 separate boxes, you hear one smooth stream. If your ear expects a pause after every word, natural English will always seem faster than it really is. Native speakers are not necessarily speaking at an impossible speed. They are simply removing the spaces your eyes expect to see. This chapter will teach you how to find those invisible spaces again. The first important connection happens when one word ends in a consonant sound and the next word begins with a vowel sound. A consonant is a sound such as T, D, K, P, N, M, or ses. A vowel is a sound such as A, E, I, O, or U. When a consonant comes before a vowel, the consonant often seems to move forward and join the next word. Look at pick it up. When spoken slowly, you may hear pick it up. In natural speech, it may sound closer to pick a top. The final K in pick connects to the vowel at the beginning of it. Then the final T in it connects to the vowel at the beginning of up. Your ear may hear something like one unfamiliar word, pick it up, but the speaker is simply saying, pick it up. Now consider, take it away. This may sound like taki tawe. The final sound of take joins it, and the final sound of it joins away. When learners hear this for the first time, they often search for separate words inside the sound. But because they are dividing the sentence in the wrong places, nothing makes sense. Imagine writing the sound like this: take it away. You could divide it incorrectly: take it away, or take it away. But once you already know the phrase, the boundaries become clear. Take it away. The sound did not change. Your brain changed the way it organized the sound. This is why listening improves so suddenly after you see a transcript. The transcript teaches your mind where the invisible spaces belong. Try another sentence. Can I ask you something? Natural speech may sound like, can I ask you something? The final N in can connect smoothly with the vowel sound in I. Then I flows directly into ask. The first part may sound almost like one word. Can I ask? A learner may wait to hear, can I ask? But a native speaker may give you, can I ask? The words are still present. Their borders have disappeared. Listen mentally to put it on. It may sound like pudidan or pudidan, depending on the speaker and accent. The final sounds connect so closely that a learner may not hear put, it, and on as separate units. Now think about the sentence. Leave it open. This may sound like leave it a pen. The final V in leave connects with it, and the final T in it connects with open. Again, the sentence becomes one chain of sound. This is the first pattern you must train. When one word ends in a consonant and the next begins with a vowel, expect the sounds to connect. Do not wait for a clean break. Now let us look at an important reason these connections confuse learners. When the final consonant moves toward the next word, it may sound as if it belongs to that next word. Take an apple. You see, an apple, but you may hear something closer to a napple. The N sound connects with apple, so your ear may feel as though the second word begins with N. Consider an orange. It may sound like an orange, or an egg. It may sound like an egg. The consonant remains grammatically part of the first word, but in the sound stream, it leans into the second word. This also happens in longer expressions. Come in. It may sound like come in. Move over. It may sound like move over. Call us. It may sound like caloose. Fill it in. It may sound like fill it in. Send it over. It may sound like send it over. You should not become worried about the exact spelling of these sound descriptions. They are only rough guides. Different speakers and accents may connect the sentence in slightly different ways. The important lesson is that the words will not always arrive separately. Your ear must become comfortable hearing the ending of one word attached to the beginning of another. Let us use a common conversational sentence. I'll call you in an hour. When spoken carefully, it is easy. I'll call you in an hour. In natural speech, it may sound more like I'll call you in an hour. The words you in can connect. The words in and can connect. The words in hour can connect. A learner may hear, I'll call you winner now. The sound boundaries can create a completely different imagined sentence. This is why context matters. If someone is discussing time and says, I'll call you in an hour, the phrase in an hour makes sense. If your ear creates a strange word that does not fit the situation, do not immediately assume you heard advanced vocabulary. Ask whether several common words may have connected. That question can rescue your understanding. Instead of thinking, what is this strange word? Ask, could this be 2 or 3 familiar words joined together? That is the mindset of a growing listener. The second major pattern happens when one word ends in a consonant and the next word begins with another consonant. In this situation, native speakers do not always pronounce both sounds with full strength. Sometimes the first sound becomes softer. Sometimes the two sounds are produced together. Sometimes one sound changes slightly because the mouth is already preparing for the next word. Consider good morning. A careful pronunciation may sound like good morning, but natural speech may sound closer to goo morning. The final D may become very light because the mouth quickly moves toward the M sound. This does not mean that the word good became goo in the speaker's mind. The sound is simply less complete. Now look at best friend. You may expect best friend, but the final T may become difficult to hear. Best friend. The T is caught between the S and F sounds. Producing every sound strongly would interrupt the flow, so the speaker may soften or almost lose the T. Consider next week. This can sound like next week. The final T in next may be very weak. Last night may sound like last night. Old man may sound like old man. Help me may sound like help me, with the sounds touching each other closely. These changes can make familiar words difficult to recognize. You know the word last, but when the T becomes weak before night, your ear may not connect last night with the written phrase last night. Do not expect every final consonant to be released clearly. A released consonant is a sound produced with a noticeable ending. For example, when someone says stop very carefully, you may hear a small release after the P, but inside a sentence such as, stop talking, the speaker may hold the P very briefly and move directly into the T of talking. The word remains understandable, but the final sound is not fully released. The same may happen in keep going, big problem, bad decision, take care, sit down. The mouth is constantly preparing for the next sound. Spoken English is not created one word at a time. It is created as one moving physical action. Your lips, tongue, jaw, and breath are already moving toward the next word before the current word is completely finished. That is why the words influence each other. When you understand this, connected speech stops looking careless. It becomes logical. The speaker is choosing the easiest path from one sound to the next. Now let us explore what happens when the same or a very similar sound appears at the end of one word and the beginning of the next. Consider big game. The first word ends with G, and the second word begins with G. A learner may expect two separate G sounds, big game. But native speakers often hold one longer G sound rather than clearly producing it twice, by game. The two sounds merge into one connection. Now try black coffee. The final K in black and the first C sound in coffee are very similar. Instead of two strong releases, the speaker may produce one longer connected sound, blah coffee. Consider stop playing. The final P in stop and the first P in playing may merge, stew playing. Or nice sandwich. The final S sound in nice and the beginning of sandwich connect closely. Knee sandwich. The words remain separate in grammar and meaning, but their matching sounds create a bridge. This can make the sentence seem shorter than it appears in writing. A written sentence may contain 15 sounds, but the spoken version may not pronounce each one separately. Matching sounds can merge, weak sounds can reduce, and words can connect. That is why written English and spoken English can feel like different systems. Let us look at a longer example. I need to talk to Tom tomorrow. On the page, the word boundaries are clear. In natural speech, you may hear, I need to talk to Tom tomorrow. The final K in talk moves quickly toward the T in to. The word to becomes weak. Then it connects with Tom. If you try to listen for every word separately, the middle of the sentence may disappear. But if you listen for meaning chunks, it becomes easier. I need to talk to Tom tomorrow. The sentence contains three useful pieces. The action, need to talk. The person, Tom. The time, tomorrow. Even if the connection between talk to Tom sounds fast, the strong meaning words help you follow it. This is why rhythm and word boundaries must be learned together. Strong words often tell you where the important parts of the sentence are. Connected weak words move between them. Now consider a sentence from a real workplace conversation. Could you send it over when you get a chance? A careful learner may expect 8 clearly separated words, but a natural speaker may produce something closer to, could you send it over when you get a chance? Several processes are happening at once. Could you becomes connected. Send it becomes connected. It over becomes connected. When you becomes weaker. Get a becomes connected. The sentence may initially sound too fast, but it is built from very common pieces. Once you train those pieces, the entire sentence becomes easier. Let us break it into chunks. Could you send it over when you get a chance? Now say the first chunk slowly. Could you send it over? Then allow the words to connect. Could you send it over? Now the second chunk. When you get a chance. Natural speech may sound closer to when you get a chance. The goal is not to memorize a strange spelling. The goal is to connect the natural sound with the real written words. A transcript shows you what the speaker said. Careful listening teaches you how those words changed. Repetition builds a bridge between the two. This is the listening bridge many learners never build. They study spelling and vocabulary, but they do not spend enough time comparing written sentences with their natural sound. As a result, their eyes know thousands of words that their ears cannot recognize quickly. You must teach your ear the spoken identity of the words you already know. Let us examine another common sentence. What do you want to eat? A learner may expect, what do you want to eat? Natural speech may sound closer to, what do you want to eat? Several words have connected and reduced, but the central message remains simple. What do you want to eat? You already know every word. The challenge is hearing the complete sound pattern. Instead of learning the words separately, learn the question as one useful chunk. What do you want to eat? What do you want to drink? What do you want to watch? What do you want to do? The ending changes, but the beginning often follows the same connected pattern. When your brain recognizes what do you want to, As one familiar sound group, you do not need to analyze every word. You simply wait for the final information. Eat, drink, watch, do. This is how chunk recognition makes listening faster. Fluent listeners do not rebuild every familiar sentence from individual pieces. They recognize common groups instantly. Think about your own name. When someone says your name quickly, you do not analyze every letter. You recognize the whole sound. The same must happen with common English expressions. How are you doing? What are you talking about? Where are you going? Do you know what I mean? Let me know when you arrive. I'll see you in a minute. These phrases should become familiar sound units. The more often your ear meets them, the less effort they require. Let us focus on, do you know what I mean? In natural speech, it may sound closer to, do you know what I mean? A beginner may hear only, no, mean. An improving learner may hear, do you know, mean. A trained listener recognizes the complete chunk instantly. The speaker did not become clearer. The phrase became familiar. Familiarity is one of the strongest forces in listening. Something sounds fast when your brain must process it for the first time. The same sound can feel slow after you have heard and practiced it many times. This is why you should not always search for new listening material. Many learners believe progress comes from listening to more and more videos. They watch one clip, understand very little, and immediately move to another. They are exposing themselves to English, but they are not giving their brain enough time to study the sound. Deep listening is different. You take a short piece of natural speech and stay with it. You listen without text. You notice what you can hear. You check the transcript. You mark the word connections. You listen again. You repeat the sentence. You return to it later without the transcript. That short sentence becomes part of your listening system. One deeply studied sentence can teach your ear more than 10 minutes of confused, passive listening. Let us build a practical method together. Choose a clip of 5 to 15 seconds. It should contain 1 or 2 natural sentences. The audio should be clear, but the speaker does not need to be slow. On the first listening, do not pause. Focus only on the general topic. Perhaps you hear meeting, afternoon, office. That is enough for the first listening. On the second listening, write the sounds you think you hear. Do not worry about perfect spelling. Maybe you write, can we move the meeting to the afternoon? Then read the transcript. Can we move the meeting to the afternoon? Now study the connections. Can we may flow together? Move the may connect. Meeting to may connect. To the may become weak. The afternoon may connect. Listen again while looking at the transcript. Draw small lines between the connected words. Can we move the meeting to the afternoon? Now repeat the sentence slowly, but do not separate the words unnaturally. Gradually increase your speed while keeping the important words clear. Move, meeting, and afternoon. The final rhythm may sound like, can we move the meeting to the afternoon? Now close the transcript and listen again. Very often, the sentence that sounded like one confusing stream will suddenly contain clear words. That moment is important. It proves that the listening problem was not always a lack of vocabulary. Your brain simply did not know where to divide the sound. Now it does. Let us examine another sentence. I'll pick you up at 8. Natural speech may sound closer to, I'll pick you up at 8. The phrase contains several connections. Pick you up at 8. The entire ending can flow as one chain. Yup a deet. A learner may hear a completely unfamiliar sound, but the situation helps. If 2 people are discussing transportation and a time, the likely sentence is, I'll pick you up at 8. Context gives your brain possible boundaries. This leads to another powerful listening habit. Listen for the situation before trying to identify every sound. If people are discussing food, the unclear phrase may involve ordering, cooking, eating, or paying. If they are discussing work, the unclear phrase may involve meetings, reports, deadlines, or clients. If they are discussing travel, expect words about tickets, times, gates, hotels, or transport. Context reduces the number of possible meanings. It helps your brain divide the sound correctly. Imagine hearing, I need to check in at the airport. Without context, the connected sound might be confusing. But when you know the person is discussing travel, check-in at the airport becomes easy to predict. Now imagine, can you send me the file by Friday? In a work context, the phrase send me the file is highly likely. Prediction does not replace listening. It supports listening. Your ear gives your brain partial sound. Context gives possible meaning. Grammar gives possible structure. Familiar chunks help place the boundaries. All of these systems work together. Strong listening is not only an ear skill, it is a complete mental process. There is another connection learners should notice. Sometimes a small sound appears between two vowel sounds to make speech smoother. For example, in some accents, phrases such as go out may sound like go out. The small W-like connection helps the mouth move from one vowel to another. Do it may sound like do it. Similarly, I agree may contain a small Y-like connection. I agree. See it may sound like see it. The speaker is not adding a new grammatical word. The mouth is creating a smooth bridge between vowel sounds. You do not need to study complicated technical names for every connection. Simply understand that natural speech avoids uncomfortable gaps. The mouth often inserts a very light bridge so the sentence can continue smoothly. In some accents, you may also hear an R-like sound connecting words. For example, far away may sound like far away, or here it is may sound like here it is. This varies between accents, so do not worry if every speaker does not sound the same. Your goal is flexibility. You are training your ear to accept different natural connections without becoming confused. English does not have only one native sound. Speakers from the United States, the United Kingdom, Canada, Australia, Ireland, and many other places connect words differently. Even within one country, pronunciation changes from region to region. You do not need to copy every accent. You need to understand the general principle. Words influence the sounds around them. Once you expect connection, variation becomes less frightening. Instead of thinking, this speaker is pronouncing everything incorrectly, you begin thinking, this speaker is following a different connected pattern. That calm attitude helps your brain remain open. Panic closes the listening process. Curiosity strengthens it. Let us practice with a short conversation. Speaker 1 says, "Are you coming over tonight?" In natural speech, it may sound closer to, "Are you coming over tonight?" Speaker 2 replies, "I'm not sure. I have to finish something at work." This may sound like, "I'm not sure. I have to finish something at work." Speaker 1 says, "Let me know when you're done." This may sound like, "Let me know when you're done." None of these sentences contains difficult vocabulary, yet the connections can make the conversation challenging. Now listen for the strong words. Coming over, tonight. Not sure, finish, work. Let me know. Done. Even if some connections remain unclear, the conversation makes sense. This is the skill you are building, understanding the message while gradually improving your recognition of the connected details. Do not wait until every sound becomes perfect before calling yourself a successful listener. Success begins when you remain inside the conversation. You may catch 60% of the sounds and 90% of the meaning. That is real understanding. As your ear becomes more experienced, the missing sounds will begin appearing. Another useful practice is to create two versions of the same sentence. Write the careful form. Could you give me a minute? Then write a simple listening form. Could you give me a minute? The second version is not formal spelling. It is a memory guide showing how the sentence may sound. Now connect the two forms in your mind. When you hear could ya, recognize could you. When you hear gimme, recognize give me. Try another. Careful form. What are you going to do about it? Natural listening form. What are you gonna do about it? Another. Careful form. Let me take a look at it. Natural listening form. Let me take a look at it. Another. Careful form. Can I get a glass of water? Natural listening form. Can I get a glass of water? These listening forms should not replace correct writing. They serve a different purpose. They teach your ear that the written sentence may have a smoother spoken identity. A word can have one spelling but several natural sound forms. Your eyes know the spelling. Your ear must learn the family of possible sounds. Now let us speak about shadowing. Shadowing means listening to a short sentence and repeating it closely after the speaker. Some learners use shadowing only to improve pronunciation, but it is also one of the strongest listening exercises. When your mouth learns how words connect, your ear becomes better at detecting those connections. Suppose the sentence is, "I'll let you know as soon as I find out." At first it may sound too fast. I'll let you know as soon as I find out. Listen to one part. I'll let you know. Repeat it. Notice how let you may sound like letcha. Now listen to as soon as I find out. Notice how as I and find out connect. Repeat the complete sentence. I'll let you know as soon as I find out. Do not rush. First copy the rhythm slowly, then increase the speed naturally. You are teaching your mouth the same movement the speaker used. When you later hear that movement, your brain recognizes it faster. Production and recognition support each other. You hear better when you know how the sound is made. But be careful. The goal is not to swallow every word or become unclear. Clear pronunciation remains important. You are learning natural flow, not careless speech. Begin with clarity. then allow natural connections. A good speaker does not pronounce every word separately, but they also do not destroy the message. Important words remain clear. The connections help the sentence flow. Your listening training should follow the same balance. Hear the strong words. Notice the connected words. Follow the meaning. Do not become trapped by every sound. There is one final idea you must understand. The spaces between written words are visual. They are not sounds. When you read, "Did you eat yet?" your eyes see 4 separate units, but the ears may receive, "Did ya eat yet?" The speaker never sends you visible spaces. Your brain creates them. At the beginning of learning, your brain places the spaces slowly and often incorrectly. With practice, it becomes faster. The phrase "did ya" begins separating automatically into "did you." The sound "pick it up" becomes "pick it up." The sound "call you in an hour" becomes a familiar time expression. This is the transformation you are working toward. You will not always need to stop, replay, and analyze. The recognition will happen by itself. But automatic understanding grows from careful training. Every time you compare natural audio with a transcript, you are teaching your brain where the hidden boundaries belong. Every time you repeat a connected phrase, you are building a stronger sound map. Every time you continue listening after missing one word, you are teaching your mind not to panic. Every time a confusing stream becomes a familiar sentence, your English ear becomes stronger. From now on, when native speech sounds like one long word, do not assume that it is impossible. Slow the sentence down mentally. Look for the strong words. Think about the context. Search for common chunks. Ask where one familiar word may have connected to another. The sounds are not attacking you. They are flowing, and you are learning how to move with them. That is the 4th transformation of the English ear. You are no longer waiting for native speakers to place a pause between every word. You are learning to find the invisible spaces inside natural English. Chapter 5. Recognize the sounds native speakers drop without losing the meaning. There is a moment in English listening that can make even a serious learner feel completely defeated. You hear a sentence, you know the topic, and you recognize several words, but one familiar word sounds incomplete. A final consonant is missing, a middle sound disappears, or 2 sounds change so much that the spoken word no longer matches the words stored in your memory. You replay the sentence and wonder whether the speaker made a mistake, whether the audio was unclear, or whether your vocabulary is still too weak. But when you finally read the transcript, you discover that the speaker used an ordinary word you have known for years. The word was not new. Its natural spoken form was new to your ear. This is one of the deepest differences between learning English through text and understanding English in real life. Written English shows every letter, but spoken English does not carefully pronounce every written letter. Natural speech is created by a moving mouth, not by a printer. The tongue, lips, teeth, jaw, breath, and voice are constantly moving from one sound toward the next, and when certain combinations are difficult or unnecessary to pronounce fully, some sounds become softer, change position, merge with nearby sounds, or disappear almost completely. Native speakers are usually not making a conscious decision to remove these sounds. The changes happen automatically because their speech system has learned the fastest and smoothest path through familiar phrases. The technical word for the disappearance of a sound is often elision, but you do not need to memorize the technical term to improve your listening. What matters is understanding the basic principle. The meaning of a word can remain completely clear to an experienced listener even when one of its sounds is not strongly pronounced. Native listeners do not depend on every sound arriving perfectly. They combine the partial sound with the sentence structure, the topic, the grammar, the speaker's intention, and the words that came before and after it. Their brains complete the missing information automatically. You already do this in your first language. People around you do not always speak carefully. They may talk while walking, eating, laughing, looking away, using a phone, standing in noise, or speaking with emotion. Some sounds become unclear, but you rarely stop and think that the entire language has disappeared. Your brain fills the gap because it knows the common patterns. You recognize what the speaker is likely to say, and you use the complete situation to rebuild what your ears did not receive clearly. The goal of this chapter is to begin building that same ability in English. The first idea you must accept is that hearing every sound is not the same as understanding every meaning. You can understand a sentence correctly even when several sounds are weak or missing. In fact, strong listeners do this constantly. Imagine that someone says, "I left my bag on the desk." In careful speech, you might expect a clear final T in the word left. But in fast conversation, especially before the M sound in my, the final T may become extremely light. The sentence may sound closer to, I left my bag on the desk. A learner waiting for the complete word left may wonder whether the speaker said left, which is not a word. A trained listener understands that the grammar, context, and sound pattern point clearly to left. Consider another common phrase, last night. On the page, you can see the T at the end of last, and you may expect to hear it clearly. But the T is placed between the S sound and the N sound, which creates a difficult sequence for the mouth. Many speakers make the T very weak, so last night may sound closer to last night. The meaning is not damaged. The listener already knows that last night is one of the most common time expressions in English. The brain recognizes the phrase as a complete unit, even if one sound is not fully released. Now consider next week. The word next ends with several consonant sounds. When it is followed by the W sound in week, the final T may become difficult to notice. The phrase can sound like next week. If you only learned the word by reading it, the spoken version may feel incomplete. But when you learn the phrase as a natural sound group, your brain stops requiring the perfect final T. You hear the beginning of next, the strong word week, and the time context, and the correct meaning arrives. This is why learning isolated words is not enough. A word may sound clear when pronounced alone, but change inside a sentence. The word first may be easy to recognize by itself, but in the phrase first day, the final T may become very weak before the D sound. The phrase may sound like first day. The word old may be clear alone, but old man may sound like ol' man. The word just may be clear by itself, but just one may sound closer to just one. The word must may be clear in a pronunciation exercise, but must be may sound like must be. These changes do not mean that every native speaker always drops the same sound. Accent, speed, emotion, formality, and personal speaking style all influence pronunciation. A speaker may pronounce the sound clearly in one sentence and reduce it in another. Your goal is not to create a rigid rule saying, this sound is always removed. Your goal is to develop flexibility, so your ear can recognize the word, whether the sound is strong, weak, changed, or almost absent. Let us examine why certain sounds disappear more often. English contains many groups of consonants, and some of these groups are physically difficult to pronounce at high speed. When one word ends with several consonants and the next word begins with another consonant, the mouth sometimes simplifies the movement. A sound in the middle may become weak because pronouncing every sound separately would slow the speaker down and interrupt the natural rhythm. Take the phrase I asked him. The word asked contains a difficult ending, and the next word begins with H. In rapid speech, the phrase may sound closer to I asked him, or even I asked him, depending on the speaker. The exact sound can vary, but the sentence remains understandable because the subject I, the verb position, the following object him, and the context all support the word asked. Now consider I missed the bus. The final T sound in missed is followed by the th sound in the. In fast speech, the ending may become very light, and the sentence may sound closer to I missed the bus. A learner may incorrectly believe that the speaker used the present tense miss, but the rest of the context may show that the event happened in the past. If the speaker says, I missed the bus this morning, so I arrived late, the time expression and result help you identify the intended meaning. This teaches an important listening principle. Grammar is not only something you study for writing. Grammar is also a prediction system for listening. When a sound is missing, grammar helps your brain restore it. If the speaker is clearly describing yesterday, the past form becomes likely. If the sentence begins with I have, a past participle is likely to follow. If you hear there are, you expect a plural idea. Grammar narrows the possibilities and makes unclear speech easier to understand. Suppose someone says, she worked there for 6 years. The final T in worked may be soft or difficult to hear. You may hear something close to, she worked there for 6 years. But because the sentence refers to a completed period and uses for 6 years in a past context, your brain can recognize the intended form. You do not need to stop the conversation and demand a perfect final sound. This is especially important with regular past tense endings. The written ending, ed, does not always sound like a clear extra syllable. In words such as worked, helped, watched, asked, and stopped, the ending may be a short T sound. In words such as played, called, cleaned, and lived, it may be a short D sound. In natural speech, those final sounds may connect with the next word or become very light before another consonant. Consider I worked late. A careful pronunciation might make the ending of worked clear, but natural speech may connect it so closely with late that the sentence sounds like I worked late. Now consider she called me. The final D in called may connect with me, making the phrase sound like she called me. If your ear only recognizes the isolated dictionary form, these natural combinations may confuse you. When you train with complete sentences, the connected sound becomes familiar. Plural and possessive endings can also become difficult to hear. In the phrase 3 months, the final sound of months is physically complex. Some speakers pronounce the full ending carefully, while others simplify it in rapid conversation. You may hear something closer to 3 months or 3 months with a very weak final sound, yet the number 3 already tells you that the noun must be plural. Grammar again supports the sound. Imagine someone says, my friend's car is outside. The possessive S at the end of friends connects directly with car. It may be difficult to identify as a separate sound, but the sentence structure makes the relationship clear. The car belongs to the friend. Strong listeners do not need every grammatical ending to be isolated and emphasized. They use structure and meaning together. Another sound that often becomes weak is aish at the beginning of common pronouns and helping verbs. Words such as he, him, his, her, have, and has may lose a strong H sound when they appear in the middle of a natural sentence. This can make simple expressions sound surprisingly different. Consider tell him to call me. In careful speech, you hear every word clearly. In natural speech, it may sound closer to tell him to call me. The H in him becomes weak, and the final consonant of tell connects to the vowel sound that remains. A learner may hear something like tell him and search for an unfamiliar word, but a trained listener separates it into tell him. Now consider give her the message. This may sound closer to give her the message. The H in her becomes weak, allowing the final V in give to connect smoothly. Ask her may sound like ask her. Call him may sound like call him. Did he leave? May sound closer to did he leave? The H is not always completely removed, and different speakers will pronounce it with different strength, but these reduced forms are common enough that your ear should expect them. This is another reason why the written spaces between words can mislead learners. You see tell him as 2 clear units, but the sound may arrive as tell him. You see ask her, but the sound may arrive as ask her. Your brain must learn that one smooth sound can contain 2 familiar words. The helping verb have can also become extremely weak. Consider I should have called. In careful speech, you hear should have, but in natural conversation, it often becomes should have, and in very casual speech, it may sound close to should ha. The esh disappears, the vowel becomes weak, and the phrase joins into one unit. Could have may become could have, or something close to could ha. Would have may become would have, or would ha. Might have may become might have. This reduction has caused many native speakers and learners to incorrectly write phrases such as should of or could of, because the spoken form sounds similar, but the correct grammar is still should have, could have, and would have. This is an excellent example of why listening forms and written forms must be connected carefully. The natural sound may hide the word have, but the grammar remains unchanged. Listen mentally to the sentence, you should have told me earlier. In natural speech, it may sound closer to, you should have told me earlier. A learner who knows only the careful form may not recognize it immediately. But once shoulda becomes connected in your memory with should have, the sentence becomes easy. Now consider, I could have helped you. This may sound like, I could have helped you. The important words are could, helped, and you. The word have becomes so weak that your ear may not hear it as a separate word, but the meaning of missed possibility is still clear from the structure. The word of is another small word that often becomes weak or blends with nearby words. A cup of tea may sound like a cup of tea. A lot of time may sound like a lot of time. Kind of strange may sound like kinda strange. Sort of difficult may sound like sorta difficult. These forms are not appropriate for every formal speaking situation, but they are extremely useful for listening because native speakers use them often in casual conversation. When a sound disappears, the surrounding words often become more important. Take a lot of people. You may not hear of clearly, but the phrase a lot followed by a plural noun strongly predicts it. Your brain can restore the missing connection. The same happens with a cup of coffee. The end of the day, one of my friends, and a piece of advice. These are common chunks, and common chunks are easier to understand even when one small sound becomes weak. This is why you should learn frequently used phrases as complete sound patterns. If you memorize only end, of, the, and day separately, natural speech may still confuse you, but when you repeatedly hear at the end of the day as one rhythmic unit, the phrase begins to arrive as one meaning. You do not need to identify every tiny sound before understanding it. Native listeners are not always hearing more sound than you. Often, they are making better predictions from less sound. Their advantage is not perfect ears. Their advantage is a larger library of familiar patterns. Imagine that you hear someone say, "I'll see you at the end of the week." Perhaps the middle sounds like one unclear stream, but if you catch "see you," "end," and "week," your brain can predict the likely expression. The phrase "at the end of the week" is more likely than thousands of other possible combinations. Familiarity reduces uncertainty. This leads to a powerful training goal. Do not only increase your vocabulary, increase your collection of predictable English chunks. Phrases such as "at the end of," "as soon as," "one of the," "a little bit of," "I should have," "could you give me," "let me know," "what do you mean," "I don't know if," "do you want to," and "are you going to" appear constantly. When these chunks become familiar, missing sounds no longer destroy your understanding. Let us look at a sentence containing several reductions. I don't know if he's going to be there. In careful speech, every word is visible and clear. In natural speech, it may sound closer to, I dunno if he's gonna be there. The phrase I don't know becomes I dunno. The H in he's becomes weak, and going to becomes gonna. A learner may believe the speaker used completely different vocabulary, but the entire sentence contains simple words. Break it into meaning chunks. I don't know if he's going to be there. The first chunk expresses uncertainty. The second explains the uncertain situation. Even if the middle sounds are reduced, the overall meaning is predictable. Now listen mentally to, did you ask him if he wanted to come? Natural speech may sound closer to, did you ask him if he wanted to come? Several sounds become weak, but the sentence structure remains strong. There is a question, the action ask, the person him, and the invitation wanted to come. If your ear catches the strong words, grammar and context can rebuild much of the sentence. A beginning listener often treats every unclear sound as a separate emergency. A developing listener begins grouping the sentence. A strong listener follows the complete intention. This chapter is training you to move from sound panic to meaning control. Suppose you hear a colleague say, I sent you the file, but you might have missed it. The phrase might have may be reduced, and the final sounds of missed it may connect. You may hear something like, you might have missed it. If you stop to analyze each sound, the sentence feels difficult. If you follow the situation, the meaning is simple. The file was sent, but perhaps you did not notice it. Context does not make listening less accurate. Context makes listening possible. Every human listener uses it. Think about this situation. Someone enters a room holding an umbrella and says, it started raining while I was walking home. Even if the word started is reduced or the final sound in walking is weak, the umbrella, the word raining, and the phrase walking home create a clear message. Your eyes, ears, memory, and knowledge of the world work together. In audio-only listening, you may not have visual information, but you still have the topic, tone, previous sentences, and common sense. Use them. Listening is not a competition in which you must prove that your ear captured every letter. It is a process of building the most reasonable meaning from available information. Let us examine another common change. The sound T can become very soft, change into a quick sound, or disappear in certain positions. The exact pronunciation depends on accent. In many forms of American English, a T between vowel sounds can become a quick tap that sounds similar to a soft D. This is why water may sound like waiter, better may sound like better, and city may sound like city to some learners. The speaker is not replacing the written letter. The mouth is producing the sound in a faster, easier way. This can also happen across word boundaries. Get it may sound like get it. Put it away may sound like put it away. What about it may sound like what about it. A learner trained only on careful classroom pronunciation may not recognize the words immediately. Different accents treat T differently. In some British speech, a T can become a brief pause or glottal sound. The word bottle may sound as though the middle T disappeared. Not now may contain a very short closure instead of a clearly released T. You do not need to copy every accent feature. You need to understand that the written letter T can have several natural spoken forms. This flexibility is essential because real English does not come from one perfect voice. You may listen to speakers from the United States, Britain, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Ireland, South Africa, India, Nigeria, Singapore, or many other places. Every speaker carries a sound history. The same word may be pronounced differently, but the grammar and meaning often remain stable. A rigid ear says, "This does not match the pronunciation I learned, so I cannot understand it." A flexible ear says, "The sound is different, but what word fits this sentence?" Flexibility turns unfamiliar pronunciation into solvable information. Take the word probably. In careful speech, it may contain several clear syllables. In fast conversation, many speakers reduce it to something closer to probably. The middle sound becomes smaller. "I'll probably call her later" may sound like "I'll probably call her later." If your ear expects every written syllable, the word may seem unfamiliar. The word comfortable can be similar. Learners may expect every syllable suggested by the spelling, but many speakers pronounce it closer to comfortable. The word different may sound closer to different. Family may sound like family. Camera may sound like camera. Chocolate may sound closer to chocolate in some accents. Every may sound like every. These words are not being destroyed. Speakers are simplifying unstressed syllables. The strong parts remain, and familiar listeners recognize the complete word. This reveals another key principle. Not every syllable receives equal time. In natural English, stressed syllables are clearer and stronger, while unstressed syllables can become very short. A learner may think the speaker is dropping sounds, but the speaker is actually protecting the rhythm. Consider interesting. Some speakers pronounce every syllable clearly, but many say something closer to interesting. The middle becomes compressed. Vegetable may sound like vegetable. Restaurant may sound like restaurant or restaurant, depending on accent. The spelling contains more visible information than the ear receives. The best way to learn these forms is to listen to the word inside several real sentences. Do not depend on one isolated recording. Hear different speakers, speeds, and accents. Notice which part of the word remains strong. The stable, stressed part often helps you recognize the reduced form. For example, in probably, the beginning prob is usually strong enough to identify the word. In comfortable, the beginning comf and the ending pattern support recognition. In different, the first syllable diff carries much of the identity. Your ear can learn to recognize the skeleton of the word even when some smaller sounds change. This is similar to recognizing a person from a distance. You may not see every detail of the face, but you recognize the body shape, movement, clothing, or voice. Listening works the same way. Your brain does not always need every sound, it needs enough identifying information. Let us now discuss how meaning can protect you when sounds disappear. Imagine someone says, "I need to buy a new battery for my phone." Perhaps the word battery sounds like battery, and for my becomes weak, but the words buy, new, and phone create a predictable situation. A phone needs a battery. The context supports the unclear word. Now imagine, the meeting has been moved to Thursday. Perhaps has been sounds like one weak group, and the final sound in moved connects with to. You may hear, "The meeting's been moved to Thursday." The strong words meeting, moved, and Thursday communicate the core message. The smaller sounds carry grammar, but you can still understand the event. This does not mean you should ignore grammar forever. As your listening improves, you will begin noticing the smaller forms more accurately. But you should not sacrifice the complete message while chasing them. Meaning comes first, detail comes second. A useful way to train is to listen in layers. During the first listening, focus only on the overall message. During the second listening, identify the strongest content words. During the third listening, focus on the grammar words and endings you missed. During the fourth listening, check the transcript and compare the natural sound with the written form. During the final listening, close the transcript and notice how much clearer the complete sentence has become. This layered process prevents overload. If you try to understand the topic, identify every sound, analyze the grammar, translate the vocabulary, and remember the sentence all at the same time, your mind becomes exhausted. Strong training gives each listening a separate purpose. Let us practice with the sentence, "I should have sent the documents before I left the office." On the first listening, you may catch sent, documents, left, and office. That gives you the basic story. On the second listening, you notice before, which connects the two actions. On the third listening, you examine should have, which may sound like shoulda, and the final T in left, which may become weak before the. After reading the transcript, the sound begins matching the written sentence. Now repeat it naturally. I should have sent the documents before I left the office. This rough sound guide is not formal writing. It simply helps your mouth experience the same reductions your ear must recognize. When you produce the connection yourself, the listening pattern becomes easier to remember. Production and listening are deeply connected. If a sound change feels physically impossible to you, your ear may not recognize it quickly. But after your mouth creates it several times, your brain develops a stronger sound map. Take the phrase, "Tell him about it." Say it carefully first. Tell him about it. Now allow tell him to connect. Tell him. Allow about it to connect. About it. The complete phrase may flow as, "Tell him about it." When you later hear that same movement, it will feel less mysterious. Try ask her if she's ready. The natural flow may sound closer to, ask her if she's ready. Repeat it, but keep the important words clear. Ask, ready. You are not trying to sound careless. You are learning how the weak sound fits between strong meaning words. Now try, I could have done it. This may sound like, I could have done it. The phrase could have becomes one familiar unit. Once it enters your listening memory, you no longer need to search for the missing word have. Another powerful exercise is backward building. Take a sentence and begin with the final important phrase. Then add the earlier words gradually. For example, start with at the station. Repeat it until the connection feels natural. Then say meet you at the station. Finally say I'll meet you at the station. This helps your mouth and ear manage connected speech without becoming overwhelmed by a long sentence. Try another. Begin with before the meeting. Then say finish it before the meeting. Finally, we need to finish it before the meeting. Notice how finish it may connect and how the final sound in it may become light before. The full sentence becomes easier because you built it in manageable chunks. You can also train with disappearing sound questions. Listen to a sentence and ask yourself which sound became weak. For example, in last week, which sound may be difficult to hear? The T. In tell him, which sound may disappear? The H. In should have, which sound becomes weak? The H, and much of the vowel in have. In probably, which syllable may be compressed? The middle syllable. This kind of focused noticing teaches your brain that the sound change is expected, not dangerous. The next time it happens, you are less likely to panic. Panic is one of the greatest enemies of listening. When a sound disappears, some learners immediately believe they have failed. Their attention becomes emotional. They stop following the speaker and begin criticizing themselves, while they are thinking, why can't I understand this? The next two sentences pass without being processed. You must replace that reaction with curiosity. When something sounds strange, think, a familiar sound may have changed. Let me stay with the sentence and look for clues. Curiosity keeps the mind open. Self-criticism closes it. Imagine you are listening to a story and hear, he must have forgotten the appointment. You do not clearly hear must have, but the words forgotten and appointment tell you that the speaker is making a strong guess about a missed event. The grammar and context reveal the meaning. You can continue following the story without solving every tiny sound immediately. Later, during focused practice, you can replay the sentence and study the reduction. Real-time listening and study listening have different goals. During real-time listening, protect the flow of meaning. During study listening, examine the details. This distinction is extremely important. Many learners use study behavior during real conversation. They try to stop, translate, and analyze every phrase while another person is still speaking. Conversation does not pause for analysis. Your first responsibility is to remain present. When studying alone, however, detailed analysis becomes valuable. You can slow the audio, repeat a phrase, check a transcript, and identify missing sounds. This careful work gradually improves your real-time ability. Deep practice prepares you for fast understanding. Let us look at a common everyday sentence. I don't think he'll be able to make it. In natural speech, don't think may connect. The H in he'll may be weak. Able to may reduce, and make it may connect. The sentence can sound like, I don't think I'll be able to make it. The strong message words are think, able, and make it. The meaning is that the person probably cannot attend or arrive. If you miss the weak H, the message remains recoverable. If you miss the reduced to, the grammar and phrase able to restore it. If make it sounds connected, the social context helps you recognize the expression. Now consider, she might have left her phone in the car. In rapid speech, this may sound closer to, she might have left her phone in the car. The H in her becomes weak, and the final T in left may connect or soften. But the strong nouns phone and car, together with the idea of possible location, make the message clear. The learner who depends on perfect pronunciation feels lost. The learner who uses sound, grammar, and context together understands. Another important area is question formation. Questions often contain helping verbs and pronouns that become weak. Did he call you? May sound like did he call you? Has she finished? May sound like has she finished? Or with a very weak H sound. Have you seen it? May sound like have ya seen it? Are you ready? May sound like are ya ready? The important information often comes later in the question. Call, finished, seen, ready. If you miss the exact form of the helping verb, keep listening. The final content word may reveal the question's purpose. This does not mean that helping verbs are unimportant. They can carry time, possibility, and grammatical meaning. But during fast listening, the speaker's structure and context often allow your brain to recover them. Over time, repeated exposure makes the reduced forms easier to hear directly. Statements with contractions can also confuse learners. He's working may contain he is, while he's finished may contain he has. The contraction sounds similar, and the following word tells you the grammatical meaning. If the next word is an ing form, he's likely means he is. If the next word is a past participle, it may mean he has. Consider she's gone home. The sound is clear, but the full word is not separately pronounced. Grammar helps you understand she has gone home. In she's going home, the same sound represents she is. The next word completes the meaning. Strong listening therefore depends on more than sound recognition. It depends on your knowledge of how English sentences are built. Grammar provides a map when the audio is incomplete. You should practice hearing contractions as complete patterns rather than trying to expand them during every conversation. When you hear I've been, connect it directly with the meaning of an experience continuing from the past. When you hear he'd already left, use the next words to decide whether he'd means he had or he would. You do not need to perform a long grammatical calculation. Repeated examples will build automatic recognition. Let us examine he'd already finished before we arrived. The word already and the past participle finished indicate that he'd means he had. In he'd help you if you asked, the base verb help and the conditional phrase indicate he would. The sound alone is not enough. Grammar completes the interpretation. This is another reason why you should not fear unclear sounds. Sometimes English intentionally uses the same reduced sound for different full forms. The sentence tells you which meaning is correct. Now let us explore the role of sentence stress. Sounds are most likely to become weak in unstressed positions. A word that is important or contrasted can suddenly become strong again. For example, the word can is often reduced in a normal positive sentence. I can do it may sound like I can do it. But when the speaker wants to emphasize ability, can becomes strong. I can do it. The sound changes because the meaning focus changes. The word to is often reduced to ta, but it can become strong when contrasted. I said to him, not about him. The word have may be weak as a helping verb, but strong when it carries the main meaning of possession. I have the key. This teaches you that reductions are connected to meaning. Speakers do not simply remove sounds randomly. They weaken predictable information and strengthen important information. Listen for the strong beats. They often reveal the speaker's intention. If the speaker says, I thought you were bringing it, the stress on you shows contrast. If they say, I thought you were bringing it, the action is being corrected. If they say, I thought you were bringing it, the object is emphasized. The smaller sounds may disappear around those strong words, but the stress pattern guides the meaning. This is why rhythm training is essential. If you listen to English as a flat line of equal words, every reduction feels like damage. If you hear strong and weak beats, the changes become natural. Take the sentence, I should have called you before I left. The strong words may be called before and left. The phrase should have becomes weak, you may reduce, and the final sound of left may be light. The rhythm carries the regret. Now repeat the sentence with equal stress on every word. It sounds unnatural and difficult. Then repeat it with the important words stronger. I should have called you before I left. The sentence flows more easily and the meaning becomes clearer. The listener's ear should follow the same path. Catch the strong words first, then allow the weak forms to sit between them. Another useful practice is reduced form dictation. Choose a short clip with a transcript. Listen and write exactly what you believe you heard, even when the result is not correct English spelling. For example, you may hear, I shoulda told him. Write that sound. Then compare it with the transcript. I should have told him. Now connect each part. Shoulda equals should have. Told him equals told him, with the H weakened and the final D connecting forward. This comparison teaches your brain how the written sentence became the spoken sentence. Do not feel embarrassed by what you first hear. Incorrect sound guesses are valuable because they show exactly where your ear needs training. Suppose you hear, I don't know where he went. You write the sound, then discover the transcript says, I don't know where he went. Now you understand that don't know became dunno, and the H in he disappeared after where. The next time you hear the pattern, recognition will be faster. This is not memorizing slang. It is building a translation system between careful written English and natural spoken English. You should also train with slow to fast repetition. Begin by saying the full sentence clearly, then repeat it at a natural speed, allowing predictable reductions. Finally, listen to a native recording and compare your rhythm. Take, I want to ask him about it. First say it carefully, then allow want to become smoother, ask him to connect, and about it to join. I want to ask him about it. Keep want, ask, and about understandable. Now take, you could have told her before you left. The natural flow may become, you could have told her before you left. Notice how have and her become weak while told, before, and left remain stronger. This physical practice teaches you that reduced speech is not an uncontrolled blur. It has structure. Important meaning remains visible through sound. Let us now consider what happens when several reductions appear in one sentence. Learners often understand one reduced phrase in isolation, but become lost when multiple changes happen together. Consider, I should have asked him if he wanted to come with us. Natural speech may sound closer to, I should have asked him if he wanted to come with us. The phrase contains reduced have, weakened him, weakened he, reduced to, and connected consonants. At first it may sound impossible. Break it into chunks. I should have asked him if he wanted to come with us. Now identify the strong words. Asked, wanted, come, us. The sentence expresses regret about not inviting or questioning someone. Once the meaning is clear, study the smaller changes. This method turns one overwhelming sentence into two manageable patterns. Try another. You might have left it in the car when you got out. Natural speech may sound like, you might have left it in the car when you got out. Strong words, left, car, got out. The speaker is suggesting a possible location for an object. The sentence is not fast everywhere, it moves quickly through predictable grammar and slows around important information. When your ear follows the strong meaning points, the reductions become easier to tolerate. Now imagine a workplace sentence. The manager must have sent it to the wrong address. This may sound like, the manager must have sent it to the wrong address. Strong words, manager, sent, wrong address. Even if must have and sent it connect, the message remains recoverable. A strong learner does not say, I missed two sounds, so I understood nothing. A strong learner says, I caught the person, action, and problem, now I can rebuild the complete meaning. This is the listening attitude you need. You must also become comfortable with uncertainty. Real listening is not always 100% clear. Sometimes even native speakers ask, what did you say? Background noise, unfamiliar accents, fast speech, and new topics can create difficulty for everyone. Your goal is not to eliminate every unclear moment. Your goal is to recover quickly. If you miss a sound, continue listening. If the meaning remains unclear, use the next sentence. If you are in a real conversation and the information matters, ask naturally. Could you say that again? Did you say Thursday or Tuesday? Do you mean the first report or the final one? These are communication skills, not signs of failure. Strong listeners use clarification intelligently. They do not pretend to understand important information, but they also do not interrupt after every weak sound. In listening practice, learn to make a reasonable guess before checking the transcript. Guessing activates your brain. It forces you to combine sound with context. Even a wrong guess teaches you something. Suppose you hear, she must have left her keys at home. You guess that she forgot something. Then you read, she must have left her keys at home. Your prediction was close because you used the situation correctly. Over time, your guesses become more accurate. This is how prediction turns into reflex. Another useful method is to build sound families. Group several phrases that use the same reduction. For example, practice tell him, call him, ask him, help him, and send him. Notice how him may lose the strong H and connect with the previous word. Then practice ask her, tell her, call her, give her, and show her. Notice the same pattern with her. Next, practice should have, could have, would have, might have, and must have. Connect the reduced sound with the correct grammar. Then practice difficult consonant groups. last night, next week, first day, best friend, old man, and just one. By grouping related patterns, you teach your brain a reusable rule rather than memorizing one sentence. When you later hear a new phrase such as "send her the link," your ear already understands how "send her" may connect. When you hear "must have been," the reduction feels familiar because you trained the pattern. This is far more powerful than passively listening to hours of English and hoping the patterns enter your mind by accident. Focused practice creates recognition. You should not spend all your time studying reductions, however. Natural listening also requires broad exposure. Use focused training for a short period, then listen to a longer conversation and notice the patterns without stopping. This helps transfer the skill from exercise mode into real understanding. For example, spend 10 minutes studying 2 or 3 reduced phrases, then listen to 5 minutes of a podcast without pausing. Do not chase every example, simply notice when a familiar reduction appears. The moment you recognize shoulda, ask im, or a weak final consonant inside real speech, your brain receives a powerful reward. I know this pattern. That successful recognition strengthens memory. Repeated success changes your listening confidence. Fast English stops feeling like uncontrolled noise and begins feeling like a collection of familiar transformations. You may hear a missing T and think, that is probably a consonant group. You may hear tell him and recognize tell him. You may hear probably and understand probably. You may hear coulda and restore could have. What once felt like broken English becomes predictable natural speech. This is the transformation you are building. Remember that you do not need to force every reduction into your own speaking. Some reductions are informal, accent-specific, or unnecessary for a clear learner. Your speaking goal should remain natural clarity, but your listening ability must be wider than your speaking style. You may choose to say going too clearly, but you should understand gonna. You may say should have, but you should recognize shoulda. You may pronounce him with a clear H, but you should understand hell him. Listening requires flexibility because you cannot control how other people speak. A narrow ear understands only the pronunciation it produces. A strong ear understands many natural versions of the same sentence. Let us bring everything together with a final example. Imagine someone says, I would have called him, but I must have left my phone in the car. In natural speech, this may sound closer to, I would have called him, but I must have left my phone in the car. At first, the sentence contains several challenges. Would have is reduced. The H in him becomes weak. Must have is reduced. The final T in left may become light before my. But the strong words are clear. Called, left, phone, car. The meaning is simple. The person intended to call, but the phone was probably left in the car. Notice how much understanding is possible without hearing every sound perfectly. Now imagine you have practiced these patterns for several weeks. The sentence no longer feels damaged. Your brain automatically restores the reduced forms. Woulda connects with would have. Called him becomes called him. Musta becomes must have. Left my becomes left my. This restoration happens in a fraction of a second. You do not translate, spell, or consciously analyze. You simply understand. That automatic response is the true goal of ear training. You are teaching your brain that spoken English is allowed to be incomplete at the sound level while remaining complete at the meaning level. You are learning to trust context, grammar, rhythm, and familiar chunks. You are learning that a missing consonant does not mean a missing message. You are learning that a reduced syllable does not create a new word. You are learning to remain calm while your brain completes the pattern. From now on, when a familiar word sounds shorter than expected, do not immediately conclude that you do not know it. Ask which sound may have become weak. Look at the words around it. Think about the sentence structure. Listen for the strong stressed parts. Allow context to support your ear. When a final T disappears, the word may still be there. When an H becomes silent, the pronoun may still be there. When have becomes a tiny sound, the grammar may still be there. When an unstressed syllable is compressed, the complete word may still be there. The sound can become smaller without making the meaning smaller. Continue training with short clips. Compare natural audio with accurate transcripts. Mark the sounds that changed. Repeat the sentence aloud. Listen again without reading. Return to the same sentence the next day and test whether your ear recognizes it faster. Do not measure progress only by the number of new videos you watch. Measure it by the number of confusing sound patterns that become familiar. Every pattern you understand removes another wall between you and real English. One day, you will hear a speaker reduce several sounds inside a sentence, and your mind will not panic. You will understand the message immediately. You may not even notice that the sounds were missing until you study the sentence later. That is what fluent listening feels like. The ear receives less than the full written form, but the brain creates the complete meaning. That is the fifth transformation of the English ear. You are no longer demanding that every speaker pronounce every sound perfectly. You are learning to recognize complete English inside incomplete sounds. Chapter 6. Train your ear with chunks, not single words. Many learners spend years collecting English words, but they still struggle to understand natural speech. They know the meaning of thousands of words when those words appear alone, yet they become confused when the same words appear inside a real conversation. The reason is simple. Native speakers do not usually speak one isolated word at a time. They speak in groups of meaning, and those groups arrive as complete sound patterns. A fluent listener does not always hear a sentence by identifying the first word, then the second word, then the third word, and slowly joining them together. That process would be too slow for natural conversation. Instead, the brain recognizes familiar groups almost instantly. Consider the phrase, "What do you mean?" A beginner may try to hear 4 separate words. What do you mean? But in natural speech, the phrase may sound closer to, "What do you mean?" If your brain is waiting to identify each word separately, the sound may feel too fast. But once the entire phrase becomes familiar, you recognize it as one unit. You do not need to analyze every sound. You hear the phrase and understand the meaning immediately. This is the power of chunks. A chunk is a group of words that frequently appears together and carries one useful meaning. It may be a complete expression, part of a sentence, a common question, a grammar pattern, or a phrase used in a particular situation. Examples include, "I don't know," "Do you want to?" "Let me know," "At the end of the day," "As soon as possible," "What are you doing?" I was going to say, "Could you help me? I'm not sure if..." Do you know what I mean? You already know the individual words inside these phrases, but knowing the words is not enough. Your ear must learn the complete rhythm and natural sound of the phrase. Take, "I don't know." In careful speech, it contains 3 clear words. In natural conversation, it may sound like, "I dunno." A learner who only knows the written words may believe that dunno is a new vocabulary item, but a listener who has trained the chunk recognizes it instantly. Now consider, "Let me know." Natural speech often sounds closer to, "Let me know." You do not need to stop and mentally divide "let me" into "let" and "me." The phrase becomes one familiar instruction. The same happens with, "Give me a minute." It may sound like, "Gimme a minute." "Do you want to come?" It may sound like, "Do you want to come?" "What are you talking about?" It may sound like, "What are you talking about?" When these chunks enter your listening memory, fast English begins to feel slower. The speaker has not changed speed. Your brain has stopped processing every part from the beginning. Think about reading. When you first learned to read, perhaps you looked at letters individually. Later, you began recognizing whole words. Then common phrases became automatic. You no longer examine every letter in a sentence because your brain recognizes larger patterns. Listening develops in a similar way. At first, you hear separate sounds. Then you recognize words. Eventually, you recognize complete phrases. The larger the unit your brain can recognize, the faster you can understand. Suppose someone says, "I was going to call you, but I got busy." A beginning listener may struggle with every word. An improving listener may recognize "going to," "call you," and "got busy." A strong listener may hear the complete sentence as 3 chunks. "I was going to call you, but I got busy." Each chunk carries a clear part of the message. The brain does not need to rebuild the sentence word by word. This is why learning chunks is one of the fastest ways to improve real listening. Another advantage of chunks is prediction. When you hear the beginning of a familiar pattern, your brain becomes ready for what usually follows. For example, if someone begins, "At the end of," your brain expects a noun phrase such as the day, the week, the meeting, the conversation, the year. The beginning prepares your mind for the structure. If someone says, "I'm not sure if," you expect an uncertain idea to follow. "I'm not sure if he's coming." "I'm not sure if this will work." "I'm not sure if they understood." The phrase gives your brain a direction before the sentence is complete. This reduces listening pressure. You are no longer receiving every sound as a surprise. Familiar chunks help you predict the shape of the sentence. Let us examine one common chunk. "Do you know what I mean?" This phrase can sound very different from its written form. In natural speech, it may become, "Do you know what I mean?" A learner may hear only "know" and "mean." But once the complete chunk becomes familiar, the reduced beginning no longer causes confusion. Now consider, "What do you want me to do?" Natural speech may sound closer to, "What do you want me to do?" Instead of processing 7 separate words, train the sentence as 2 chunks. What do you want me to do? The first chunk is extremely common. Once recognized, you only need to catch the final action. What do you want me to say? What do you want me to bring? What do you want me to change? What do you want me to explain? The structure remains stable while the final word changes. This is a powerful way to train. Instead of memorizing one complete sentence and never using it again, learn a reusable frame. Take the frame, "Could you help me?" Then complete it in different ways. Could you help me carry this? Could you help me find the station? Could you help me understand this? Could you help me with the report? The beginning becomes one automatic chunk. Your ear recognizes it quickly, and your speaking also becomes faster because you do not need to construct the sentence from zero. Chunks therefore improve both listening and speaking. When you recognize a phrase easily, you are more likely to use it naturally. When you can produce it smoothly, you are more likely to recognize it in another person's speech. This connection is important. Listening and speaking are not separate systems. They support each other. Suppose you practice saying, "I was wondering if you could help me." At first, the sentence may feel long, but if you divide it into chunks, it becomes manageable. I was wondering if you could help me. Repeat the first chunk until it feels natural, then repeat the second. Finally, join them together. Now, when someone uses the same polite structure in conversation, your ear is more prepared to recognize it. The sentence no longer feels like a long chain of unexpected words. It feels like a familiar pattern. Another useful category is time chunks. Expressions such as, "a few minutes ago," "later this afternoon," "at the end of the week," "by the time I arrived," "as soon as I finish," "from time to time," appear constantly in spoken English. If you learn these only as separate words, their connected sound may confuse you. But when you train them as complete units, they become easier to catch. Take, "at the end of the week." In natural speech, the smaller words may become weak, and the phrase may sound like one long rhythm. At the end of the week. The strong words are end and week. The rest moves quickly between them. Once you recognize the rhythm, you do not need to hear every small word clearly. Now consider, "as soon as possible." The phrase may sound like, "as soon as possible." The words connect naturally, and the stress usually falls on soon and possible. Train the phrase as one complete sound. Do not separate it unnecessarily. The same principle applies to opinion chunks. I think that, in my opinion, the way I see it, I don't really think. It seems to me. These expressions often appear at the beginning of longer ideas. When your ear recognizes them, you know the speaker is introducing an opinion. That expectation helps you follow the sentence. Similarly, agreement and disagreement have common chunks. I completely agree. I'm not sure about that. I see what you mean. That makes sense. I don't think so. You may be right, but when these become familiar, conversations become easier because you recognize the speaker's intention immediately. You are not only hearing words, you are hearing functions. A chunk can signal a question, an opinion, a disagreement, a request, a reason, a result, a contrast, or a conclusion. This is why chunks are more useful than isolated vocabulary. A single word gives you meaning. A chunk gives you meaning, grammar, rhythm, and purpose at the same time. Consider the phrase, "the reason is that." This chunk tells you that an explanation is coming. The speaker might say, "The reason is that I didn't have enough time. The reason is that the system was not working. The reason is that nobody told me." Once you hear the opening chunk, your brain expects a cause. Now consider, "That's why." This signals a result. I missed the bus. That's why I was late. The audio was unclear. That's why I couldn't understand. The phrase helps organize the message. Strong listeners recognize these organizational chunks and use them as road signs. Natural speech can feel confusing because the sentence moves quickly, but these expressions show where the message is going. Words such as but, because, so, although, however, and therefore also guide meaning. In conversation, some may be reduced or spoken quickly, but their function remains powerful. If you hear but, expect contrast. If you hear because, expect a reason. If you hear so, expect a result or next action. If you hear, for example, expect an illustration. If you hear in the end, expect a final result. Listening becomes easier when you understand these signals. Let us practice with a sentence. I wanted to go, but I had to finish some work. Divide it into chunks. I wanted to go, but I had to finish some work. The word but is small, but it changes the direction of the message. The first chunk gives the desire. The second gives the obstacle. Now listen to, I stayed home because I wasn't feeling well. Chunks, I stayed home because I wasn't feeling well. You do not need to analyze each word separately. Follow the relationship between the chunks. This is especially important in longer sentences. A learner may hear 20 words and feel overwhelmed, but the speaker is often expressing only 3 or 4 meaning groups. Consider, I was going to meet my friend after work, but the meeting finished late, so we decided to meet tomorrow instead. This sentence looks long, but divide it. I was going to meet my friend after work, but the meeting finished late, so we decided to meet tomorrow instead. Now the structure is simple. Plan, problem, new decision. Strong listening means organizing sound into meaning groups. Another benefit of chunk training is that it reduces translation. When you hear a complete familiar phrase, you can connect it directly with meaning. For example, when you hear, take your time, you should feel the meaning of, there is no need to hurry. You do not need to translate take, then time separately. When you hear, it's up to you. Recognize the complete meaning. You can decide. When you hear, I'll get back to you, understand that the person will respond later. These expressions cannot always be understood naturally by translating each word. Their meaning belongs to the whole phrase. This is why chunks are essential for real English. Let us examine. I'll let you know. Word-by-word translation may feel slow, but the complete phrase means that the speaker will give information later. Natural speech may sound like, I'll let you know. Once this chunk is familiar, understanding is instant. Now consider, I didn't catch that. In a listening situation, this means, I did not hear or understand what you said. A learner who only focuses on the word catch may imagine a physical action. The chunk gives the real conversational meaning. Another useful phrase is, what do you mean by that? This asks for explanation. Natural speech may sound like, what do you mean by that? Train the meaning and sound together. To build a strong listening system, create a personal chunk collection. Do not collect random expressions only because they look advanced. Collect phrases you actually hear and need. You might organize them into groups. Questions, requests, opinions, time expressions, workplace phrases, travel phrases, daily conversation, clarification phrases, agreement and disagreement. For each chunk, keep 4 things: the correct written form, the natural sound, the meaning. One example sentence. For example, written form, could you say that again? Natural sound, could you say that again? Meaning, please repeat what you said. Example, sorry, I didn't hear you. Could you say that again? This creates a complete memory. Your eyes know the spelling, your ear knows the sound, and your mind knows the use. Now take written form. What are you going to do? Natural sound. What are you gonna do? Meaning, asking about someone's plan. Example, the office is closed. What are you going to do? Repeat the chunk several times, then listen for it in real speech. Do not try to learn 50 phrases in one day. Choose 5 useful chunks and meet them repeatedly. Repetition is more valuable than a huge list. A phrase you have seen once belongs to your notes. A phrase you have heard, repeated, understood, and recognized many times belongs to your listening system. There is a major difference. The best listening practice uses short audio with repeated chunks. Choose a clip of 10 to 30 seconds. Listen once for general meaning. Then listen again and identify any familiar phrases. Look at the transcript and underline groups of words that belong together. For example, I'm not sure if I can make it tonight, but I'll let you know as soon as possible. Possible chunks. I'm not sure if I can make it tonight, but I'll let you know as soon as possible. Now listen again. Do not focus on every individual word. Listen for the beginning and ending of each chunk. Repeat each group naturally. I'm not sure if I can make it tonight. I'll let you know as soon as possible. Finally, repeat the complete sentence. This exercise teaches your brain to process longer speech without becoming overwhelmed. Another powerful method is chunk substitution. Take one familiar pattern and change only one part. Start with, I'm not sure if he's coming. Then, I'm not sure if she understands. I'm not sure if they received it. I'm not sure if this is correct. I'm not sure if we have enough time. Your brain learns the stable opening chunk and becomes flexible with the changing ending. Now use, could you tell me? Could you tell me the time? Could you tell me where the station is? Could you tell me what happened? Could you tell me when the meeting starts? This improves listening because the opening becomes predictable. It also improves speaking because the sentence frame is ready before you need it. Fluent speech is not always created word by word. Much of it comes from stored patterns. Native speakers also use chunks. They are not inventing every sentence completely from nothing. They rely on thousands of familiar expressions. That is why their speech feels automatic. You can build the same kind of system. You do not need to memorize every possible English sentence. Learn flexible patterns that can carry many different meanings. For example, the thing is, this chunk introduces an explanation or problem. The thing is, I don't have enough time. The thing is, nobody told me. The thing is, we already tried that. Another useful chunk. It depends on. It depends on the weather. It depends on how much it costs. It depends on what they decide. One of the reasons is that I need more practice. One of the reasons is that the instructions were unclear. The fixed part gives you structure. The changing part gives you freedom. When listening, these fixed parts act like anchors. Even if some words in the changing section are difficult, you still understand the direction of the message. This is especially helpful when listening to longer explanations, lectures, interviews, and audiobooks. Speakers often use predictable organizing phrases. First of all, the main point is, on the other hand, for example, in other words, as a result, the important thing is, to sum up, when you recognize these chunks, you know what the speaker is doing. They may be introducing a point, giving an example, showing contrast, explaining again, or concluding. This gives structure to long audio. Without these signals, a learner may hear many sentences but fail to understand how they connect. With them, the message becomes a map. Let us imagine a speaker says, "The main problem is that learners try to translate every word." In other words, they focus on language instead of meaning. As a result, they fall behind the speaker. Notice the chunks. The main problem is that, in other words, as a result. These expressions organize the explanation. The first introduces the problem. The second explains it differently. The third gives the consequence. Even if several small words are reduced, the structure remains clear. Train yourself to notice these phrases whenever you listen to longer English. Another important category is response chunks. Real conversations move quickly because speakers use short, familiar responses. I see. Really? That's true. Exactly. I understand. That makes sense. I'm not sure. Maybe. I don't think so. You're right. These phrases help you follow the speaker's attitude. If someone says, "That makes sense," they are showing understanding or agreement. If they say, "I'm not sure about that," they are expressing doubt. If they say, "Exactly," they strongly agree. Recognizing these chunks helps you understand the emotional direction of the conversation, not only the factual meaning. Tone is also important. The same words can carry different feelings. Really? Can show surprise, doubt, excitement, or interest, depending on the voice. That's fine can sound truly accepting or slightly unhappy. Chunks give you the basic function, while tone adds emotion. A strong listener pays attention to both. You should also train common clarification chunks because they protect you in real conversations. Could you repeat that? Could you speak a little more slowly? What do you mean? Did you say 15 or 50? Are you saying that? Let me make sure I understood. These phrases allow you to remain active when listening becomes difficult. A learner who knows these chunks does not feel helpless. They can ask for exactly the information they need. For example, "Let me make sure I understood. The meeting starts at 9, correct?" This is much stronger than pretending to understand and making a mistake later. Learning to listen does not mean never asking for clarification. It means knowing when and how to ask. Now let us build a daily chunk routine. Choose 5 phrases from real English. Listen to each phrase inside a complete sentence. Read the transcript. Mark the stressed words. Notice the reductions and connections. Repeat the phrase 5 times naturally. Create one new sentence with the same structure. Listen again without reading. Use 1 or 2 of the chunks in your own speech that day. The complete routine may take 15 minutes, but it trains several skills at once. Your ear learns the sound. Your mouth learns the rhythm. Your brain learns the meaning. Your memory learns the situation. That is much more effective than reading a long vocabulary list. Here's another powerful exercise: delayed repetition. Listen to a short chunk and wait 1 second before repeating it. At first, use simple phrases. "I don't know. Let me think. I'll call you later." Then increase the length. "I'm not sure what you mean. I'll let you know when I arrive. I was going to tell you yesterday." This trains your working memory to hold English as a complete sound group. Many learners can understand individual words but lose longer phrases because they cannot hold the complete sequence. Chunk repetition strengthens this ability. You can also practice expansion. Begin with, "I know." Expand it. "I know what you mean." Then, I think I know what you mean. Then, I think I know what you mean, but I'm not completely sure. Each new part is added as a chunk. The sentence becomes longer without becoming mentally chaotic. This helps build speaking stamina and listening memory at the same time. Another important habit is to stop pausing after every word when you repeat English. Some learners copy the text, not the sound. They say, "I would like to know." But natural speech groups the sentence. I'd like to know. The phrase should flow as one request. Similarly, can you tell me should not become can you tell me? The words belong together. When you repeat chunks naturally, your listening becomes more sensitive to rhythm. You begin hearing where speakers group ideas and where they pause. A pause does not always appear between every grammatical word. It usually appears between meaning groups. Consider, if you have time, could you call me before the meeting? The pauses divide the request into 3 parts: the condition, the action, the time. Listening for these boundaries helps you understand longer sentences. You should not expect every speaker to use the same pauses, but meaning groups create a useful pattern. This is especially valuable in audiobooks and lectures where sentences may be long. Instead of trying to remember 20 individual words, hold 3 or 4 chunks. Let us practice with a longer sentence. Although I understood most of the presentation, I missed a few important details because the speaker was talking very quickly. Divide it. Although I understood most of the presentation, I missed a few important details because the speaker was talking very quickly. Now the meaning becomes easier. General success. Specific problem. Reason. Each chunk carries one clear idea. When you listen to long English, mentally summarize each chunk rather than translating every word. This keeps your attention moving. Another common mistake is learning rare, impressive phrases before mastering everyday chunks. Advanced vocabulary may look attractive, but ordinary conversational patterns give you more listening power. A learner may know words such as inevitable, significant, and comprehensive, but still fail to catch. What have you been up to? You know what I mean? I'll get back to you. Let me think about it. Real fluency depends heavily on these common patterns. Do not underestimate simple English. The most common chunks appear so frequently that recognizing them saves enormous mental energy. When your brain understands the predictable parts automatically, it has more attention available for the new information. Suppose someone says, "I'm not sure if I can join you because I have to finish a report." If "I'm not sure if" and "I have to" are automatic chunks, your brain can focus on "join you" and finish a report. But if every word requires equal effort, the sentence feels much harder. Automatic chunks create space in your mind. That space allows deeper understanding. This is one reason native speech appears easy to native listeners. Much of the language is already stored in complete patterns. They mainly focus on the information that changes. You can gradually create the same advantage. Every useful chunk you master reduces future listening effort. Think of each chunk as a shortcut. Instead of walking through 5 separate words, your brain crosses one bridge. The more bridges you build, the faster you move through English. But remember, chunk learning is not mindless memorization. You should understand the meaning and use. A phrase learned without context may be forgotten. A phrase connected to a real situation becomes useful. I'll take care of it. Do not only memorize the words. Imagine a situation in which someone has a problem and you promise to handle it. Now the phrase carries an action and emotion. No worries. Imagine someone apologizes and you reassure them. I didn't mean to. Imagine someone caused a problem accidentally. Meaningful examples make the sound easier to remember. Emotion also strengthens memory. A phrase from a funny, surprising, or important conversation may stay in your mind longer than a phrase from a dry list. Use clips that interest you. Choose topics you understand and enjoy. The goal is focused listening, but interest helps you remain consistent. Consistency is more powerful than one long training session. 15 minutes of deep chunk practice every day can create more progress than several hours of passive listening once a week. Passive listening has value, but it does not automatically teach your ear where the chunks begin and end. Focused practice makes the hidden structure visible. Here is a simple 7-day challenge. On day 1, collect 5 question chunks. On day 2, practice 5 response chunks. On day 3, learn 5 time expressions. On day 4, train 5 request patterns. On day 5, practice 5 opinion phrases. On day 6, review all 25 chunks through short audio. On day 7, listen to a conversation and count how many of those patterns you recognize. You may be surprised by how often they appear. That recognition creates confidence because natural English stops feeling completely unpredictable. You begin hearing familiar islands inside the sound stream. At first, perhaps you recognize one chunk in a sentence, then two. Eventually, the entire sentence becomes a connected pattern. This is how listening grows. Do not wait for a moment when every word suddenly becomes clear. Build clarity phrase by phrase. Every chunk you master becomes part of your English ear. Let us finish with one complete example. I'm not sure if I'll be able to come, but I'll let you know as soon as I can. A learner may see 15 separate words. A trained listener hears, "I'm not sure if I'll be able to come, but I'll let you know as soon as I can." The sentence becomes 4 familiar meaning groups. The first shows uncertainty. The second describes the possible action. The third promises information. The fourth gives the time condition. Natural speech may reduce several words, but the chunks remain recognizable. This is the 6th transformation of the English ear. You are no longer building every sentence from individual sounds. You are learning to recognize complete pieces of meaning. When chunks become familiar, fast English stops feeling like 1,000 separate problems. It becomes a small number of patterns your brain already knows. Chapter 7. Build the English ear that never stops learning. If you remember only one lesson from this audiobook, remember this. You do not become a better listener by hearing more English. You become a better listener by hearing English more intelligently. Every chapter in this book has shown you that the biggest listening problems are rarely caused by a lack of vocabulary. Most learners already know enough words to understand everyday conversations. The real challenge is recognizing those words when they are connected, reduced, shortened, and spoken naturally. Now you know how native speakers connect words instead of separating them. You know why small grammar words become weak. You know why some sounds disappear. You know how context helps you recover missing information. You know why learning chunks is much more powerful than memorizing isolated vocabulary. These are the habits of strong listeners. But knowledge alone will not transform your English. Daily practice will. From today, stop measuring your progress by how many new words you memorize. Instead, ask yourself better questions. Did I recognize a connected phrase today that confused me last week? Did I understand a fast sentence without translating? Did I stay calm when I missed a word? Did I keep following the speaker instead of giving up? Every yes means your English ear is becoming stronger. Your daily practice does not need to be long. Spend 15 to 20 minutes listening carefully to short, natural English. Listen once for the main idea. Listen again for the important words. Read the transcript. Notice the connected speech and reduced sounds. Repeat the sentence naturally, then listen one final time without reading. If you do this consistently, your brain will slowly stop hearing English as random sounds. It will begin recognizing complete patterns automatically. One day, you will watch a movie, listen to a podcast, or speak with a native English speaker and suddenly realize something surprising. The conversation feels slower, not because people changed the way they speak, because your ear finally learned the language they have been speaking all along. That is the true purpose of the English ear. It is not to create perfect listeners overnight. It is to build a listening system that becomes stronger every single day. Keep listening with curiosity. Keep trusting the process. And remember, the words were never hidden. Your English ear simply needed to learn how to find them. Congratulations, you have completed your journey through the English ear. Now the real training begins. Before you close this audiobook, I want you to remember something that can completely change the way you think about your English. For years, you may have believed that your listening problem was caused by a small vocabulary, poor memory, or a lack of talent. But now you know the truth. You were never listening to the wrong language. You were simply listening with an ear that had never been trained for real English. Native speakers were not speaking too fast. They were speaking naturally. And today, you have learned how to hear that natural English in a completely different way. From this moment forward, stop asking yourself, why can't I understand English? Instead ask, what pattern is my ear learning today? That single question will keep you improving long after this audiobook ends. Remember the journey you have completed. You learned to stop chasing every single word. You learned to focus on meaning before perfection. You learned how connected speech creates one smooth stream of sound. You discovered why weak words almost disappear. You learned how missing sounds can still carry complete meaning. You trained your brain to hear chunks instead of isolated vocabulary. Most importantly, you discovered that listening is not a gift people are born with. It is a skill that grows every single time you listen with purpose. There will still be days when a conversation feels difficult. There will still be accents you have never heard before. There will still be moments when you miss a sentence. Do not let those moments convince you that you are failing. Every fluent English speaker has experienced those same same moments. The difference is that they kept listening, and now, so will you. The next time you watch an English movie, listen to a podcast, join an online meeting, or have a conversation with someone from another country, do not worry about understanding 100%. Relax. Follow the meaning. Trust your ear. Let your brain do the work it has been training to do throughout this entire audiobook. One day, perhaps sooner than you expect, you will finish a conversation and suddenly realize something incredible. You did not translate. You did not panic. You did not ask your brain to search for every word. You simply listened, and you understood. That is the moment the English ear becomes part of you. Not because you memorized another vocabulary list, but because you finally learned how English truly sounds. Thank you for spending this journey with English Mindset Academy. If this audiobook helped you hear English more clearly, return to it whenever you feel your listening becoming weak. Each time you listen again, you will notice patterns that were invisible before, because your ear will continue growing. Keep listening every day. Keep trusting the process. Keep believing in your progress. Because fluent listening is not built in one perfect day. It is built through hundreds of small moments when you choose to keep going instead of giving up. This is not the end of your English journey. It is the beginning of a new way of listening, a new way of thinking, and a new way of understanding the language that once felt impossible. The words were never hidden. The meaning was never out of reach. You simply built the ear that knows how to find it. Until our next audiobook. Keep training, keep growing, and let the English ear guide you every time English begins to speak.